Well, welcome. Today is day 2, and today I want to talk about the 2-5-1 progression in a very simple way to play it and how to play it in all 12 keys as quickly as possible. Okay, these concepts were taught to me by Dave Wheeler, who was a friend and teacher of mine for many years. And this is not Uncle Dave. There is an Uncle Dave organ player in town, but Dave Wheeler was a teacher at Capital University, where I first met him, and then I didn't see him for a number of years and started running into him in town, and I thought, well, you know, I should probably study a little bit more again. So anyway, but these were some of the concepts that he taught me when I took piano from him in college, and it has to do with the 2-5-1 progression, which is very essential if you want to play jazz. I mean, that's kind of preaching to the choir, but the 2-5-1 chord language is like the 1-4-5 chord language in classical music. Now, what I want to talk about today are a couple of things. First of all, we'll go through the 2-5-1 that's on your PDF sheet, and I'll show you a way to get through all 12 keys with ease. And then we'll talk a little bit about one of the stock endings. And also within the 2-5-1, I want to take it through the diatonic scales, meaning that there's not going to be any added alterations at first. Okay, you just have to review your key signatures and that to know, you know, what are the sharps and flats in each key, and it shouldn't be an issue at all. And then I also want to talk about how to play the 2-5-1 another way that I don't have in the sheet. This will be more of a brain exercise for you. And so let's get started. Okay, on the sheet here I have the 2, 9, 5, 13, 1 major 9 progression. Okay, and I chose to teach this one first because there's no inversions. On the 5-13 chord, you know, there's no inversions of that at all. Some of these things come from classical music. They actually carry over. And in the 13th chord, okay, if we have a G13th chord, you're going to have the 7 on the bottom, and you're going to have the 13 on top. That actually came from this classical thing. You'll hear this sometimes in later romantic music like Chopin and Liszt. Okay, that's a pretty square interpretation of that, but that's where it came from. So anyway, and also with this progression, you're not going to have to sit and scratch your head on how to play a 13th chord, because when you play the 2 chord before it, the 13th chord automatically will happen if you drop the 7th of your D minor 9. Okay, I'm going to put the bass note down here. 7 falls to 3. And then when you go to the 1, this 7 falls to 3. Okay, so we'll start with the 2-9, 7 falls to 3, and then here 7 falls to 3. Okay, so what I want to do right now is I want to take you through how to practice this in all 12 keys with ease. Now, I'll go back to you know, my student-teacher relationship with Dave Wheeler. When I first studied with him when I was a student at Capital University, I have a master's degree in percussion. Okay, my college majors were in percussion. I'm still very active playing drum set, and Carrie and I both work as percussionists in some of the classical circles, mostly in the churches, you know, playing timpani and xylophone and all those kinds of things. But you know, I always took piano lessons the whole time through with Dave Wheeler, also with Hank Marr when I was at Ohio State, And then also a gentleman named John Ulrich that a lot of Columbus people will know. He was a wonderful stride piano player and other styles. But anyway, as far as the 2-5-1, let's just get started here. So I have the first key written out for you. And the rest of it you're going to have to figure out. But I'm going to show you an easy way to make that work to play in all 12 keys. Now, range, you might want to change octaves if it starts getting too low and that kind of thing. I'm going to start it up high, okay, just for the, for ease in playing. So here we go, and I'm going to go very, very slow. So basically, you've got your 1, okay, of your chord, your root of your chord. We're in the key of C major. The 2 is on the second note, D. And then I'm going to have the root, and then the 3rd, 5th, 7, 9. Okay, so that's our 2 minor 9. And we're going to do that 7 falls to 3 to get our 13th. Then 7 falls to 3 here to get our 1 chord. Okay, so from the sheet, okay, now here I am. All right, if that was the key of C major. Now, if I take the 3rd and the 7th and I lower them by half step, now I've got 2 in the key of B flat, and I just follow this through. Do the same thing. 2-5-1 and A flat. Here, lower them. 2, 5, 1 in G flat. Now I'm not going to call this F flat, I'm going to call it E. But same deal here. Those fall here. Same thing. Now when I get there, I've finished them all. So, I'm starting over here where I started from. So right there we played through 6 keys. Okay? Now how do we get the other 6? Well, you just take your exercise, go up a half step, and follow it through. Key of D flat. So that's all 12 keys right there. Okay, now it's probably going to make you think to do that. I couldn't do that, the first week. In fact, when Dave taught this to me, I played through maybe 4 keys, came back the next week, and he just randomly asked me keys, and it's like, well, I didn't know all of them, so I went back the second week and practiced them all. So anyway, I are a good student. Okay, so that's pretty much it for that. Now, I want to introduce something that's very cool about this, where we can introduce the 13 flat 9. If we, instead of just dropping 7 to 3, I'm going to drop the 2 middle notes by half step. Sounds like this. And so on and so forth. I'll do a couple more. Okay, and then you can just follow through with the thing. You know, you go down by whole step and you go through the 6 keys, you take it up a half step and go through the other 6 and you're done. Now, you know, I don't know how long it'll take you to retain that. That just depends on how much you practice it. But that's basically the chord language of jazz is the 2-5-1. Okay, now, one thing that I didn't put on this sheet, this is the brain exercise for you. The first exercise, we automatically got the 13th chord. Okay, it just came right out of that. And no thought. One thing that you might want to do is give it some thought, you know, when you're playing. You know, just don't, you know, just play through these and, you know, it's a thoughtless exercise. And also, you know, after you feel comfortable playing in all 12 keys, just, you know, find a key, you know, so you don't get used to just playing this pattern, you know, and that kind of thing. But the other exercise that I don't have written down is 2 minor 7, 5 9, 1 major 7, or 1 major 9, excuse me. It's always good to put ninths in that major 7th chord. It's a little richer sound. The major 7th chord is okay, but the 9th gives it, you know, a little bit more flavor. So I'll just go through a couple of those. Now, with this one, you are going to have to deal with inversions. Okay, now I'm going to just run through the 2-5-1 in the key of C. 2-7-5-9, 1 major 9. Okay, and you know, this is a discipline. You're going to have to play, you know, all the inversions. Okay, so we're going to start with root position of the 2-7 chord in the key of C. So it'll be D, F, A, C. Okay, here's our 5-9, 7 falls to 3. And then 7 falls to 3 here. Now let me play that again without talking. So the next thing you do is you're going to invert the 2 chord to this. First inversion, follow through with the 7 falls to 3. Okay, and then we're going to put the 2 chord in second inversion. And then we're going to put the 2-7 chord into third inversion. Okay, so that's another way to practice that. And tomorrow, as far as the 2-5-1, I'm going to add some different bass lines to that. Oh, and before I forget, okay, with this exercise too, you can introduce the, play the 2-7, and then play the 5-7 flat 9 if you take these 2 chord members down a half step, so you'll get this. 5-7 flat 9. Okay, and that's all, you know, just with the whole note in the bass, just to, you know, get grounded on that. Okay, now the other thing that I wanted to talk about today is one of the first endings I talked about yesterday. Okay, just, you know, how to end a blues by coming down 3 times from the 5. Okay, so I'm going to use Chicken Shack as an example, but I'm going to play it in the key of C. I kind of like to teach things using the key of C first, because I feel that if you understand it in C, then you're going to understand it in the other keys. Now, you know, Jimmy Smith's version of Chicken Shack is in the key of F. And sometimes I've had to play it with, especially with blues guitar players, in the key of G. Now, I've never had to play it in the key of C, but there is a recording of Jon Lord from Deep Purple, some live concert, a live CD that I bought. You know, I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but they did Chicken Shack in C. And Jon Lord, you know, was quite an influence on my playing. In fact, you know, I like to play these little tricks in my CDs every once in a while. When I recorded Deep Purple on my latest CD, a late one, I had a nice intro in there that was kind of Wild Bill Davis. Then I changed, and that was like kind of a nod to Jon Lord. So I don't know if any of you caught that or not, you know, that have that CD. But anyway, you know, I wanted to, like, you know, get a little bit of a Jon Lord thing in there in the intro. So anyway, let me just run through Chicken Shack in the key of C, and you know, hopefully that'll go well. That's not the usual key that I play it in. Now, as far as what I do on Chicken Shack in the bass, okay, you know, I played piano for a long time before I played organ professionally, okay. I took organ lessons as a kid, but you know, right around 2000, maybe 99, you know, I became friends with Tony, and it was one of those things. It's like, well, you know, I really need to do this. And so, you know, we bought a bigger house that could accommodate the organ. That's not why we bought the house, but that was just a nice side benefit. And we brought the organ down here, and I started like digging in on the jazz organ thing. And, you know, up to that time I'd been, you know, playing a lot of jazz piano, but always wanted to play the organ. We just never had room for it, you know, in the townhouse or, you know, the other little house we had before. But anyway, so Chicken Shack, what I'll do is I'll come down 3 times from the 5. I'm just going to play, you know, through the 12 bars of Chicken Shack and show you how that works. Okay, so another thing too, since I, you know, came more from a piano thing before I played the organ in a jazz context, I know that the way Jimmy rides the bass is more like this. But I ride the bass more like this. It's just easier for me, so that might be a difference that you notice. But let's try it and see how this goes. All right. With the Ellington ending there. Okay, so I'm going to talk more about those endings tomorrow, but that's just an example of that. And then, you know, you can always end with, you know, one of the chords I have up on top. And so let me just take that through here, and, you know, I'll show you that. Or it could be, and it probably should never be. That's too pretty. So anyway, I kind of challenged myself on that to play Chicken Shack in C, which isn't real natural for me to do, but you know, it's always good to push yourself. So anyway, day 2, and tomorrow we'll talk about how to add some different bass lines to the 2-5-1 progression, some patterns that are very good, and we'll talk more in detail about stock endings, and I'll make a little bit of reference to Fly Me to the Moon and Night and Day on that.